Among them is a mother and her two sons who might be deported back to the DRC after their asylum status was not renewed. There, they fear that they might be killed in the DRC, but they've been charged with the contravention of South Africa's Immigration Act. Lawyers for human rights were also in court to ensure that the rights of the refugees are upheld. A private advocate is appointed by a professor from UNISA to represent the group, where 3 of the 8 refugees were released after charges were withdrawn. Lawyers for human rights are also monitoring the case to ensure that the rights and dignity of the refugees are upheld. SABC News reporter Patricia Visagie has more.
The 5 refugees briefly reappeared here at the Hatfield Regional Court. The case has been postponed to next week, Tuesday. Professor Lee Stone, an expert on refugee matters at UNISA, joins me right now just to take us through the latest developments and what transpired in court and what is the way forward, in particular as the refugees are obviously facing possible deportation, and they have made it very clear that they're fearing for their lives if sent back to the DRC. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. It was a brief court appearance, but just take us through, what are the reasons for the postponement?
Thank you. So the case is against 5. The case of the 5 refugees really amounts to a situation where this is a group of people who have been denied refugee status in South Africa and should be deported in terms of the Immigration Act. But that means that the Refugee Act is being ignored, and South Africa has numerous binding obligations to ensure the protection of refugees. So what we are doing at the moment is the advocate is making representations in writing to the magistrate to have the immigration contraventions matters withdrawn against the refugees so that South Africa can be seen to be actually complying with its obligation not to refoul or send back a person to a country where they face imminent threat or a risk of harm.
Let's talk about that risk of harm that they're talking about. We saw the mother and her 2 sons literally breaking down yesterday in court, emotional scenes as they were begging not to be sent back to the DRC. And many are saying that, is it really that bad?
Well, this is what confounds me, is that in 2015, the asylum permits given to the family that is composed of a mother, father, and 4 sons, that was withdrawn by the Department of Home Affairs arbitrarily, in my mind, because there is absolutely no justification for withdrawing refugee status or even the application for asylum in pursuit of obtaining refugee status from people who have a legitimate fear of persecution or who have had to flee events seriously disturbing the public order. And we know beyond any doubt that the Congo is ravaged by ongoing conflict. In fact, the statistics indicate that there has not been a single year since at least 2008 where the Congo is not embroiled in some form of civil conflict. And unfortunately, the east of the Congo, where Kivu is, where this family in particular are from, is most severely affected. So it is not acceptable at all in terms of South Africa's legal obligations or ethical obligations to refugees to send this family back home to the Congo.
There's also another 3 who I understand have been released on bail. It's a separate matter, but it links on to the larger group of refugees.
Well, the 3 who were released yesterday, interestingly, it's not that they were released on bail. They were released because the police had to charge them with something when this group voluntarily climbed into the police vehicle in the midst of the eviction proceedings on Friday. They climbed into the vehicle because they said to the police, "We do not have any protection in this country because our asylum papers were withdrawn," as I said, in 2015. And If we walk the street now, we are liable to be immediately arrested and deported. Therefore, we are coming to you as police to protect us. But due process requires that the police cannot just hold you there without charging you. So they were charged with allegedly contravening the eviction order.